just going to do this. Oh, there's your foghorn. Okay, Lisa.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 25 and end on page 26. The study will start on page 26 and end on page 28.
Plus the spiritual experience.
Any announcements?
Yeah, hi family. My name is Jamie. Very grateful recovered alcoholic. Good to be with all of you tonight. Thank you all for joining us. We had group conscience the other night, and it was very good and very productive. And Larry was voted in as our GSR for primary purpose, and will at the first of the year we'll take that office and be our representative at district and assembly. Shana will be our new incoming secretary starting at the beginning of the year for group consciences. What other changes did we make? We made a few, and it'll all come out to those who are home group members in an email of what the minutes were. Something else we have decided to do, and we're in the process now of putting ourselves on online intergroup, AA online intergroup. We're not putting ourselves on everything AA because that is not by Alcoholics Anonymous itself. That's a third party, but we will be on online intergroup, hoping to expose ourselves to some more newcomers and people that are actually interested in a big book study of this nature. Because we do love to carry the message. If you're new to us, welcome. Glad to have you. And if you decide you like what we have here at Primary Purpose, you can either send Trish or I a message if you'd like to become a home group member, and all we need is your name, phone number, sobriety date, and email address. And it's really pretty simple, and we'd love to have you, and then you would have a voice in the way that this group operates. And that's, and I will be going to fourth quarter assembly this weekend coming up, and it is a voting assembly. For those of you who don't know, just like every group has its own autonomy because of Tradition 4, every district has its own autonomy and can operate the way it wishes to, and every area throughout the United States and Canada also has its own autonomy. So you go from one state to the next, things might be different and operate differently, but the group is ultimately the voice of Alcoholics Anonymous, and those are the places where the groups collectively come together to send the group's message and wishes to New York, to the General Service Office, and the things that we would like to have done, changing literature, not changing literature, that sort of thing. So if you don't have a home group, folks, I encourage you to get involved. That being said, moving on, good evening, and again, family, my name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study. To get focused, let's have a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Lisa, Seashell Pickle. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing, as to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. and a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God, let the craziness of the day drift away, and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's invite those monks in to do what the monks do so well. Enjoy your time with God, folks. And for those of you who wish, if you'd like to join us in our family's fog light prayer on the screen in front of you, it goes as follows. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Let's have our secretaries report. Come on in, Jim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim F., and I am your recovered alcoholic secretary, and I need a volunteer to read the recovered statement. Rick, is that something you can do tonight?
Sure, I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Rick, alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. That's on page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Rick. And I just want to make sure, I left off that we read that notice to explain why people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. And Rick did that so nicely. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our big book study starts promptly at 6:30 Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our big book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the forward to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
I think we have one, and that would be Jamie, and we'd like to welcome her. Welcome. Jamie.
Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
All righty. Let me see here. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. All righty. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
There is one that I know of for sure, and that is Art, with 47 years.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Art.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for keeping the light on for us.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Put it up again so that my wife can see it.
Yes, but be happy to. 1 second. There you go.
Oh, that's great.
Congratulations, my friend.
Way to go, Art.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, great grand sponsor.
If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time is questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Jim, and my apologies. I forgot to give you time to get somebody as a reader. We were running late. My apologies. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we've discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and a program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 5. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 6. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Come on in, Trish.
Hey, everybody, I'm Trish. I'm an alcoholic. And our short form for Tradition 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. And the long form, properties of Problems of property, money, and authority may easily divert us from our primary spiritual aim. We think, therefore, that any considerable property of genuine use to AA should be separately incorporated and managed, thus dividing the material from the spiritual. An AA group as such should never go into business. Secondary aids to AA, such as clubs or hospitals, which require much property or administration, ought to be incorporated and so set apart, if necessary. They can be freely discarded by the groups. Hence, such facilities ought not to use the AA name. Their management should be the sole responsibility of those people who financially support them. For clubs, AA managers are usually preferred, but hospitals, as well as other places of recuperation, ought to be well outside AA and medically supervised. While an AA group may cooperate with anyone, such cooperation ought never go so far as affiliation or endorsement, actual or implied. An AA group can bind itself to no one. And in looking through the 12 and 12 and a little bit about what it said in Tradition 6, back in the early days, they were dreamers. And the moment they saw that they had an answer for alcoholism, it was reasonable for them to feel that they might have an answer to a lot of other things. AA groups, many thought, could go into business or might finance any enterprise whatever in the total field of alcoholism. And they dreamed of hospitals, because hospitals don't like alcoholics, so they figured they'd build a hospital chain of their own. People needed to know what alcoholism was, so they wanted to educate the public and maybe even rewrite school and medical textbooks. Gathering up derelicts from Skid Row, sorting out those who could get well, and making it possible for the rest to earn their livelihood in some sort of quarantine confinement. No longer would they be jailed. Judges would parole them to our custody, and we would spill AA into the dark regions of dope addiction and criminality. But then it occurred to us that may not work, because that was taking away from what our primary purpose was, and it was affiliating us with so much other things. And by affiliating ourselves with all these other institutions, these other businesses, if any one of them would fail, then anyone that AA's name was connected to would also be seen as AA failing. And we don't want to endorse. We don't want to say, you must do this, you must do that, you've got to use our name, because then you'll get a whole lot of people coming in and wanting to help. But all of a sudden, they started realizing that, anybody who would put money into those businesses would then want to say, I want it run this way, I want it run that way. And then we would not be able to run it as AA ought to be run, as a meeting, as following our traditions, with that group autonomy. And it could very easily put us right in the middle of any controversy, of any two-sided, it says here in the 12 and 12, talks about the wet-dry controversy. Half the people in the country would think we would sign up with the dries, and the other half would think we signed up with the wets. So we've got to be really cautious. Anything that we put our name to, which should be nothing, is going to be affiliation. And if it's somebody who doesn't agree with that, we could be then limiting or eliminating their chance of recovery, because if they think we're affiliated with some company, some thought, some ideology, and they come in and say, oh, you're related to that, they're not going to want to come in, because they won't want to be affiliated with that. We've got to keep our focus on just alcoholism. Yes, there are clubs. There's a club in this area, and it's changed hands and management and who's in charge of it several times. And it's not as big as a lot of clubs in bigger areas. All they do is have a meeting space. But they run it as a corporation. Groups pay them rent. They all share on the coffee and things at the coffee bar, the candy bar. But all the groups who there are there don't just say, it's an AA club, I don't have to pay money. They still have to pay their dues or their rent for using that facility. No other business uses that facility because we don't want to identify ourselves with any outside company who may be using that space. Just like as an AA meeting, we're not going to go to any other meeting and say, you've got to use our name, because that way people start coming to our meeting too. We've just got to focus on what we're doing in our group, what we're doing in AA as a whole, what we're doing in a district, not any outside relations, because we don't want to get confusion, especially with the newcomers, and then end up eliminating any chance of them getting sober, or throwing in the possibility of someone coming in and saying, I made a big donation to this company that is affiliated with AA, therefore AA needs to do what I want them to do. We've already learned that doesn't work, and I don't want to see that happening again. So, which is why our traditions for us and for the newcomers are so good for us to educate everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trish. Excellent job. And now it is time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of those things we often hear in meetings is, remember your last drunk. So Kenny's going to come in and tell us what the book has to say about that in the squiggly writing on page 24. Come on in, Kenny. Welcome.
Okay, we are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 25, which will be read by Alyssa, followed by a study portion read by Sheila, and we'll also be reading again the spiritual experience that'll be read by Jacqueline.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium starting at the back of our study portion, both where where Sheila and Jacqueline will be reading tonight. But we're going to break that up into two segments. We're going to do answer the questions that Sheila reads to us out of the book first, and then we will go to the spiritual experience with Jacqueline, and then we'll come back and answer those questions. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language and the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
Hang on, Linda. Trish, can you repost the pages, please? Thank you. This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comments, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have a spiritual experience with this information, feel free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you will hear a timer to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with a sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point. This meeting started in person at Jamie's house in 2020. When COVID hit, it went to Zoom and remains that way. This is a 96-week Big Book study. We're in our 5th year of being a group and our 4th season going through the book. We study with the question and answer format, starting at the title page and go through page 164. We read through the preface, the forewords, doctor's opinion, Bill's story, which tells us the history and how we developed, teaches us about a threefold disease, the spiritual malady, the obsession analogy. We read Dr. Bob's nightmare. Bill's story is also a classic 12-step call. We read the traditions. We spend 4 weeks on them, 3 traditions a week. We also read the spiritual experience 4 times, 3 times in our reading when the asterisks refer to it, in our final week of the study to close the season out. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. Well done. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware again that the first hour and a half of this meeting is recorded in audio only so that we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel. And welcome, Alyssa. Come on in.
Thank you, Jamie. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. I'm on page 25, first full paragraph. There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others, and we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it. When, therefore, we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence, of which we had not even dreamed. The great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences, which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, towards our fellows, and towards God, God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and our lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but 2 alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other, to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to, and were willing to make the effort. Thank you for letting me read.
Thank you so much for your service tonight, Alyssa. And just to comment again, last week we read Appendix 2, the spiritual experience, and studied it. This week we will study it again, and we will visit the spiritual experience 3 times as directed by the asterisk, so that we can understand what a spiritual awakening or experience is, so that we can recognize whether or not we are having one. But before we do that, Sheila is going to come in and read tonight's study. Welcome, Sheila. Sheila, are you there? Where did she go? I don't see her. She disappeared.
Can I read it?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, so you're starting on 26. You're starting on a certain American businessman.
Yes, ma'am. Going to page 28 of let me find it. Made him a free man.
Okay. A certain American businessman had ability, good sense, and high character. For years he had floundered from one sanitarium to another. He had consulted the best known American psychiatrists. Then he had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of a celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. Jones, who prescribed for him. Though experience had made him skeptical, he finished his retirement with unusual confidence, and his physical and mental condition were unusually good. Above all, he believed he had acquired such a profound knowledge of the inner working of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable. Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. So he returned to his doctor, whom he admired, and asked him point blank why he could not recover. He wished above all things to regain self-confidence. He seemed quite rational and well-balanced with respect to other problems, yet he had no control whatever over alcohol. Why was this? He begged the doctor to tell him the whole truth, and he got it. In the doctor's judgment, he was utterly hopeless. He could never regain his position in society, and he would have to place himself under lock and key or hire a bodyguard if he expected to live long. That was a great physician's opinion. A great physician's opinion. But this man still lives and is a free man. He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined. He can go anywhere on the earth where other free men may go without disaster, provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help. Let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with his doctor. The doctor said, "You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you." Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. He said to the doctor, "Is there no exception?" "Yes," replied the doctor, "there is exceptions to cases such as yours. Have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomenal. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacement and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding force of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. In fact, I have been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods which I employ are successful, but I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description." Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that after all he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctor's telling him that while his religious convictions were good, in his case they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. Here the terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself when he had the extraordinary experience which, as we have already told you, made him a free man. We in our turn sought the same escape. We in our turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful head of God. A new life has been given us, or if you prefer, a design for living that really works. The distinguished American psychologist William James, in his book Varieties of Religious Experience, indicates a multitude of ways in which men have discovered God. We have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. If what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living creator, with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms. As soon as we are willing and honest enough to try
Linda,
I'm going to read that again.
I think we were supposed to end at the first paragraph, 28.
Made
Made him a free man.
Yeah.
So I'll stop here.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for jumping in there, Linda, and welcome back, Sheila, and welcome to everybody who came in. We are on page 26, and we are going to go to the question section now. And our batting order tonight are Art, William, Linda, Rick, Larry, and Billy. And please speak clearly into your microphones. And once we're done with this portion, please leave your hands up and mute yourself in the reading of the spiritual experience, and then we'll come back and ask you the questions on that again. Art, first question comes to you, sir. Page 26. How is Roland H., an American businessman, described?
A certain American businessman had ability, good sense, and high character.
Thank you. William, next question comes to you, sir. Where had he sought help? 2 sentences, please.
For years he had wandered from one sanitarium to another. He had consulted the best-known American psychiatrist.
Thank you. And Miss Linda, who did he finally go to?
Then he had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of a celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. John, who prescribed for him.
Thank you. And hey, fireman, welcome. Good to see you, Rick. Was he confident that he had been fixed?
Though experience had made him skeptical, he finished his treatment with unusual confidence.
Thank you. Larry, coming to you, sir. How were his mental and physical condition after treatment?
His physical and mental condition were unusually good.
Thank you. And Billy, welcome. Above all, what did he believe?
I looked up and lost my place. Above all, he believed he had acquired such a profound knowledge of all the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable.
Thank you. Art, coming back to you. Nevertheless, what happened?
Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time.
Thank you. William, how did he explain it?
More backward instead, he could have given himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall.
Thank you. Linda, a 3-part question for you. A, what did he do? B, did he really respect the doctor? And C, what did he ask the doctor?
So he returned to the doctor, whom he admired, and asked him point blank why he could not recover.
Thank you. Rick, what was his greatest wish?
He wished, above all things, to regain self-control.
Thank you. And Larry, did he appear to be a very normal person?
He seemed quite rational and well balanced, and with respect to other problems.
Thank you. Billy, what was it he had no control over?
Yet he had no control whatever over alcohol.
Thank you. Art, what was his question?
Why was this?
Thank you. William, what did he want to know?
He begged the doctor to tell him the whole truth, and he got it.
Thank you, Linda. Two-part question. A, what was the truth? And B, what would he have to do to live?
In the doctor's judgment, he was utterly hopeless. He could never regain his position in society, and he would have to place himself under lock and key or hire a bodyguard if he expected to live long.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that Lisa will be coming in with a few comments as well. But first, Rick, who said so?
That was a great physician's opinion.
Thank you. Larry, did he die from drinking?
But this man still lives and is a free man.
Thank you. And Billy, did he need to be protected from himself?
He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined.
Thank you. Art, a two-part question for you, sir. A, was he free to come and go as he pleased? And B, what must he do to maintain his freedom from alcohol?
He can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go, without disaster, provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude.
Thank you. Lisa, you've got a comment.
Could this be to accept spiritual help?
Thank you. And William, do some alcoholics believe they can do without spiritual help?
Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help.
Thank you. Linda, what do the authors tell us?
Let us tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with his doctor.
Thank you. Rick, what did the doctor tell Roland was his problem?
The doctor said, you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic.
Thank you. Larry, how many alcoholics like Roland had Dr. Young seen?
I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you.
Thank you. And Billy, how did Roland feel after hearing the prognosis?
Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang.
Thank you. Art, what was his question to the doctor?
He said to the doctor, is there no exception?
Thank you. William, what was the doctor's reply?
Yes, replied the doctor. And some exception cases such as yours have been occurring since early time.
Okay, so you took two questions, but that's okay. Linda, we're going to move to the next one. Were they common occurrences?
Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences.
Thank you. Larry, did Dr. Young understand these occurrences?
To me, these occurrences are phenomena.
If the phenomenon of craving is our problem, according to Dr. Silkworth, in the doctor's opinion, is the phenomenon of the vital spiritual experience our solution, according to Dr. Young?
Thank you. And Billy, what did these vital spiritual experiences appear to be to Dr. Young?
They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements.
Remember, Dr. Silkworth believed that the only hope for a chronic alcoholic was an entire psychic change, a complete change in the way we think and the way we feel. Dr. Young told Roland the same thing. Our old ideas and beliefs must be replaced with new ideas and beliefs. Taking the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous will produce that vital psychic change or spiritual awakening / experience. A complete change in the way we think and the way we feel.
Thank you. And Art, I believe it's coming back to you. What was the product of these occurrences?
Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding force of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them.
Thank you. And William, what had Dr. Young been attempting to do with Roland?
In fact, I have been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you.
Thank you. Linda, two-part question. A, had Dr. Young been successful with hard drinkers? And B, had he ever had any success with a real alcoholic?
With many individuals, the methods which I employed are successful, but I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description.
Notice the asterisk after alcoholic of your description. Read the footnote.
Yeah, that's directions for you.
For applications, I think it is, and
Okay, don't everybody talk at once.
sorry.
It's okay. Rick, coming to you. Two-part question. Was Roland relieved to hear the doctor's solution? And B, why did he have hope?
With many individuals?
No, upon hearing this.
Last paragraph.
Okay, thank you. Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that, after all, he was a good church member.
Thank you. Larry, what did Dr. Young do to Roland's hope?
This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctors telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience.
Thank you. And Billy, what made Roland a free man?
Here was the terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself when he had the extraordinary experience, which, as we have already told you, made him a free man.
Roland continued his affiliation with the Oxford Group and the Calvary Church in New York City. He never became involved with Alcoholics Anonymous, but did live the rest of his life sober. Roland Hazard was the beginning of carrying the message of spiritual change. Roland carried the message to Ebby Thatcher. Ebby then carried the message of psychic change / spiritual experience to Bill W. Bill then carried the message back to Dr. Silkworth and then to Dr. Bob, leading to the work
Thank you.
of Alcoholics Anonymous on June 10th, 1935. This led to the first printing of our basic text in April 1939, almost 4 years later. Before proceeding, let's go to Appendix 2, page 567, in the 4th edition.
And you read that comment first, Lisa.
The only significant change that has been made in this basic text, the first 164 pages plus the doctor's opinion of the big book, is the one that produced the need for Appendix 2. Step 12 in the first printing read, having had a spiritual experience as the result of this course of action. In reading Bill's story, we read where he had a sudden spiritual experience as the result of these steps. Dr. Bob, on the other hand, had a very slowly developed spiritual awakening. Many of those reading the first printing of the big book were not experienced as Bill's hot flash and felt they were missing something. To correct that misconception, Bill reworded Step 12 to what it reads now and added Appendix 2 as an explanation.
Thank you. And Jacqueline, if you would like to come in and read the spiritual experience for us, please.
Okay. Jacqueline, alcoholic, spiritual experience. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which, upon carefully reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet, it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes are religious experience, must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheaval. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it is not our intentions to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change of feeling and outlook. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformation, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experience are what the psychiatrist William James called the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomers are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realized that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction of life, that such change could hardly have been brought upon by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could suddenly have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resources which, as presently identified with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious member call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance and belligerent denial. We find no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essential of recovery, but these are indispensable. This is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation of its potential.
Thank you so much for your service tonight, Jacqueline. And going right back to our same answer readers, Art, William, Linda, Rick, Larry, and Billy, and if you could all unmute. And we are going to start off with Art in the spiritual experience. Your question, Art, is this conclusion is what? Read the first two paragraphs, please.
The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous.
Thank you. And William, coming to you, sir. In the stories, in the first chapters, which spiritual event was described, please? One sentence.
In the first 3 chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described.
Thank you. Linda, did most alcoholics believe that they too could have a spiritual experience? It's a really long sentence.
I lost where we are. What paragraph are we on?
Though it is not our intention.
And this is on 27?
No, ma'am, it's in the spiritual experience on page 567.
Oh, pass. Go to the next person.
Rick, coming to you, sir. Did most alcoholics believe they too must have a spiritual experience?
Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover they must require an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook.
Thank you. Larry, are such transformations frequent?
Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule.
Thank you. Art, coming back. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Billy, coming to you. 2-part question. What do most of our members experience? And B, why did William James call them that?
This is on page 557. I've been trying to find this. I might have a different book.
The spiritual experience starts on page 567 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
All right, I was 10 pages too early. Sorry.
Okay, I'll move on to the next person and you can catch up.
Spent this trying to find it.
Art, I'm going to ask you the same question. It's a 2-part question. What do most of our members experience? And B, why did William James call them that?
Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James called the educational variety, because they have developed slowly over a period of time.
Thank you. William, very often who are the first to notice the change that has taken place?
Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the differences long before he is himself.
Thank you. Linda, are you caught up to where we are?
Yes.
Okay, 2-part question. A, what does the alcoholic finally realize? And B, could he have accomplished this himself?
He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reactions to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone.
Thank you. Rick, what could seldom have been accomplished by self-discipline?
What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline.
Thank you, Larry. A 2-part question. With few exceptions, what do we all tap into? And B, what do they identify this to be?
With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unusual, unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves.
Thank you. And Billy, what do most of us think?
Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience.
Thank you. Art, coming back to you. What do religious folk call it?
Our more religious members call it God consciousness.
Thank you. William, two-part question. A, what do we wish to say emphatically to any alcoholic? And B, what is one condition the alcoholic must meet?
Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problem in the lights of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts.
Thank you. Linda, what will defeat an alcoholic?
He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial.
Thank you. Rick, what is it that no one should have difficulty with?
We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program.
Thank you. Larry, what are the essentials of recovery?
Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery.
Thank you. And Billy, how important are they?
But these are indispensable.
And Art, you get the final question of the night and the quote. What will keep a man in everlasting ignorance?
There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which can not fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. And that's a quote from Herbert Spencer.
Thank you, everyone, for your service tonight, and you can all remute. And the meeting is now open for sharing, questions, observations, spiritual experience. With the material, we'd love to hear from you. Alrighty then, it's the dental chair. Cool. I like meetings like this. We'll just practice a little more meditation. Larry, come on in. You're muted.
Yeah, I was never, I don't think in the place that I was never told that I was a hopeless case. I was never told that I could not get well. Any of that. Of course, I never went to rehab. But I got I did it myself in kind of a back room with help, in which my heart stopped once, and I had to bring a friend of mine that was helping me had to bring me back to life. So I don't recommend to anybody the way I got sober, but I refused to go to rehab. But I have no idea how bad my alcoholism was, because I really had never tried to get clean until that time. I never really wanted to. I don't think I ever thought I ever could. I thought that was my life. I was pretty much, committed that that's how I was going to live my life until I died. But, I do know this, that I started this Alcoholics Anonymous, and I did the program, but I did it kind of my way for a long time. I took the suggestions, but I took the suggestions that I wanted. And I remain sober, but I probably, well, I know because it got to a place at one point that I really wanted to take my own life, and God intervened. But when I finally decided to get absolutely honest in this program was the night that I probably can say that I had some kind of reaction of an experience with my higher power. It's when I met a God consciousness that I have today, in which I just, all of my feelings, all of the guilt of my life seemed to pour out of me. And I just gave up. And something came in, or something happened inside of me. Now, I never went to church after that for a long time because I did not identify with church or God or religion or anything like that. And I just worked the program. I just kept doing the steps, but I did them more thorough this time, and I actually did them honestly, and I started getting so much better. You know, as a young kid and as a young adult, I remember trying church and trying to get sober, and going to an altar and just crying and repenting, they called it, and walking out and not getting too far without doing the same thing that I just had repented for, 20 minutes earlier, because I couldn't stay sober, and it didn't work like that for me. But that night was different. And I think it was because after it happened, I had the steps. I had this program that I was working. I had some kind of foundation that was in my life. And because I had this program and I continued to work them, there began to be some changes in me. And because I wasn't close-minded about God, it wasn't long that I even became open to going to religious practices and getting into a congregation and becoming more spiritual and finding other spiritual avenues for my spiritual life. And I have found richness both there and in Alcoholics Anonymous. And because of that, this program has taught me so much, and I am so appreciative for the spiritual experience that began that night and the beginnings of that when I first found Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all I got.
Thank you, Larry. Glad you're here. Thank you for your service tonight. William, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. My name is William Alcoholic. Good evening, everybody. Glad to be back. I think I missed a few sections because of the issue came up in my life. But I'm glad to be here tonight with you all. Whenever we read stuff like this, it's giving me a time to reflect on my life before I got sober and what happened in the process, you know. And definitely, I thank God for the bill having that real impact, spiritual thing. And then Dr. Bob talk about his educational variety, you know. So what I read or learn about the literature is all inclusive, never exclusive, you know. Because a lot of time when I was in the meeting, I hear other people talk about what happened to them, what happened to them. I got confused and really didn't know, you know, until I came in and began to look at myself. And I like the way it says over here. They talk about the psychologist, William James, in his book, A Variety of Religion Experience, you know. So that's could come from, doesn't matter whether you Buddhist, Hindu, Baptist, Catholic, non-believer. You know, it's all inclusive. Never exclude anybody out of here, you know. And definitely, as we went into this spirit experience, I see a lot about myself. And one thing that used to happen all the time, you know, but I see how I got it, you know. I would have never seen it. They used to say in the meeting, a lot of meetings that I went to, they used to say, honest and open-minded and willingness, you know. But here, in the spiritual experience, they put a willingness, honest and open-minded, you know. And I was willing to come to alcoholism. I don't think I was willing to, but some people just brought me here until I became willingness. And then I began to see other people share it. I began to get honest, you know. And then I became the one that he was talking about, indispensable. I became willing to put those in my life, honest, willingness, open-mindedness, stuff, you know. And definitely I didn't realize it right away. Some other people had seen my attitude, and they began to tell me that it was taken on to my life, you know. And today I'm grateful for that, you know. I mean, because with this spiritual, my spiritual self, I'm okay with me today. I'm okay with William today, you know, and I'm okay with my recovery process, you know. Because I truly believe if I had got it, I wanted like pre-sweetened Kool-Aid, take some water, put it in a glass, shake it up, and you out of here, you know. And that's what would have happened to me. I truly believe that would have happened to me until I stayed here and learned how to prioritize my life, you know. I knew with this program, which I think of God, if I don't keep that first in my life, you know what I mean, I could still go crazy and hurt myself and hurt somebody else, you know. So I'm grateful for that, you know, because today I know the difference. I know whenever my attitude is kicking up, you know. You know, and I don't like it today. You know, I don't like it today, you know. But I'm human, you know. And I truly believe that when these things pick up and give me some more time to grow in this spiritual program, it allows me more time to grow in the spiritual programs. So it keeps me on my edge. You know, you don't have it made with you. You'll be practicing this until you die. You know, so I'm happy to be here, though, because I find so much peace in my life. You know, and with everything going around me, when I want to, I can dig into this program and find some peace. So thank you, and glad to be back here with you.
Thank you, William. Jacqueline, welcome, my friend.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline. And, you know, the more I read this book, the more it jumps out at me. You know, my solution, prior to come to Alcoholics Anonymous, was always in the bottle. You know, and I just thank God for, you know, there is a solution, and that solution is not in the bottle, you know. I remember hearing or reading in our literature, stopping drinking is just the very beginning. It's just the very beginning, you know. I had no idea that, like it says in here, you know, who like self-searching. I never did self-searching. I probably did self-searching, you know, to other people. The leveling of our pride, the profession of shortcomings. You know, I had no idea what shortcomings was. All I knew that I got angry. I was full of fear and shame and guilt. And it says which the process requires successful consummation. And you know, if I do all of these things, you know, I didn't know then, but I know now. With the help of a sponsor and going through this big book. If I do all of these things, I will have a successful and complete transformation that they talked about in the spiritual experience in the back of the book that we read, because, as we read this, it says there's no middle of the road solution. I must find spiritual help. I must. And because they say down here, there's two alternatives, Either I'm going to go to the bitter end, blotting everything out, keeping a closed mind, or I'm going to accept spiritual help. And as long as I continue to improve my conscious contact with my higher power, which I choose to call God, I will continue to have a transformation here in recovery. Because the more I keep coming back, the more it's being revealed to me. The more I keep coming back, the more I read the literature, the big book, the more it's being revealed. And it says, when Dr. Young was talking back here on page 27, it said, this hope, however, was destroyed by the doctor telling him that while his religious convictions were good, and they were good, but my religious conviction could not stop me from drinking. Could not. I remember my grandmother would tell me, why can't you stop drinking? And other people would tell me, why can't you stop drinking? I had no idea that I had a mental obsession. And I would go to any length to get that drink, because, and I like this part, my ideas, emotion, and attitude, which were once the guiding force of the life, these men are suddenly cast aside. And what I'm trying to say is my emotions, my ideas, and my attitude was once my guiding force. When I thought it, I had to get it. But as I kept coming back and working these steps, those ideas have been cast aside. And only through a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening. And I just think of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm glad to be on this meeting.
Thank you, my friend. Good to have you with us. Jim, come on in.
Hey, good evening, fellow travelers. Jim F., an alcoholic. I have tapped into an unsuspected inner resource. And what a beautiful thing it has been. The desire to drink has been relieved for me, but emotional sobriety has been difficult lately. And those old character defects kept standing in the way. And recently I have been meditating more on the higher power and less on my problems. And as I get in conscious contact with the power that is greater than myself, amazing things happen. I become joyful. I become patient. I become concerned about other people. Today I had to go to the doctor at 7:30 in the morning, and on the way there, I was in this space where I was letting people in. You know what I mean? There was stuff on the way in there, on the way back. We had construction to go through, and just letting people in instead of like making it a fight about who's going to be first. I was allowing people a space because, for whatever reason, I had freedom just to be. And it was no longer a competition, or I had no opinion on how they were driving. I just was there, and it was amazing for me. And I showed up at the pharmacy to get a prescription. And I must have been early, but their window was open, you know. And at first I was like, I waited there for a few minutes. They saw me there, but no one put the speaker on and said, "Hey, we're not open yet." So finally, okay, I left and I went to the grocery store and got a few items. And then I came back and they were open and took care of business. And there was no emotional upheaval. There was no emotional upset. There was just an opportunity to be happy, no matter what the situation was. And then later this afternoon, things got a little hairy, but I can tap right back into it. When I got in this meeting, I tapped right back into that inner resource, that unsuspected inner resource. And I have an amends to make when this is all finished for some obnoxious attitude I was exhibiting. And but that's okay. I have the 10th step. I can go and I can clean up the issue, and then it won't fester. Because if I leave all these resentments hanging around and upsets, and they build and they build and they build, next thing you know, I'm thinking about taking a drink. And today I don't have to do that because I have these steps. And the main thing is, if you can tap into that power greater than yourself, it'll change you. Oh my God, it's been amazing the last couple of weeks. I'm done. Pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Glad you're here. Miss Linda, come on in. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. When I first came to AA, I figured I was just going to clean myself up, learn how to drink. I went to the other fellowship first. And I just figured I was just going to get my ribs out of hot, get myself together, learn how to drink, learn how to do some, recreational, dry good use, a lot of things. I had this misconception of what these 12-step programs was about. But I did know one thing, listen to what your sponsor said. And the fellowship, and this guy was sharing this at a group anniversary. We just had a group anniversary up in Queens, and it was a great group anniversary. Both speakers were phenomenal. And one guy said it, he said in the other fellowship, and I'm not trying to get off topic. Give me a second, you'll see where it leads up to. He said, when I went to that fellowship, he said, if I met anyone with 4 or 5 years, I thought they were God. He said, because people were relapsing on a regular. They were relapsing on a regular. He said, but when I came to AA, I saw people with 10, 15, 20 years on a regular. He said people were living and they were recovering, and he explained the difference so clearly, and I was listening to what Miss Jacqueline was saying, and if we have a belligerence and we have this indifference to this program, yeah, we're gonna relapse, yeah, we're gonna fail. One thing that I found out is that it's the individual that fails. It's not the program. AA never fails. It's the individual, and even if you do relapse, no one has a scorecard. Oh, you didn't do it right, don't come back. We say keep coming back, and if you are a person of defiance, believe me, by the time you get sober and you get clean, you're going to look like you know what, because you went in and out and in and out. And finally, that disease just really whips you behind so bad. And I seen one guy, I was like, is that so-and-so? And someone was like, yeah. I said, Dad, they look bad. They said, well, they've been relapsing in and out. And I was like, oh. I said, yeah, but I relapsed in and out. They said, yeah, but they said, you were one of the lucky ones. But they asked me, they said, but didn't you reach your bottom? And wasn't it just too much for you at a certain point? I said, yeah, it was. I laid on my bed crying, saying, God, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm dying. I hit that bottom. And every AA has to hit a bottom. I like what it says about, you're hopeless. I've just seen you with Dr. Ping. You're just hopeless, And when we get to that hopelessness, that's when we do have to reach out to God. And it gets on a spiritual level. It does, because it says it right there. Came to believe that a power greater than us to restore us to sanity. There was no, it was not my power, it was no human will or power, says it, that can get us sober and keep us sober. For me, it had to be God. You know, my God stepped back and he let me keep hitting that concrete. Then when that concrete really hurt me, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. You know, I think I need to stop. And the next thing I know, 2 weeks went into 30 days. 30 days went into 2 months, and so on and so on. And it was always one day at a time for me. I didn't get it a year at a time, 2 weeks at a time. I got it sometimes a minute at a time, because it was some tough times in AA that I wanted to drink. But I did exactly what my sponsor told me. I made the meetings, I reached out to people, I called before I wanted to drink. I called, because this disease is really no joke. It really isn't. You know, and if you're going to be defiant and you want to do your own will and your own way, then you're going to, you know, you're going to get that. You're going to get that pain and you're going to get that suffering. You know, you're going to get exactly what you're going to get. You know, it's like they say, you know, I can't turn around and think that my old ways is going to help me now. You know, insanity, as they say, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And that's the mind of an alcoholic. As they say, disease is centered in our mind. You know, thinking, oh, I can do it better than what they're telling me in AA. I'm going to get this. I don't need to. They don't understand me. They understood me a lot more than I understood me. I remember one guy said, you know, we got a book that was personally written for you. And I was like, really? And then he hands me the Alcoholics Anonymous book. I was so insulted, you know. But that book, it was written for all of us, you know. And I'm just so grateful to be sober. And I like what it says about that defiance. If you want to be defiant, you know, you're either going to just keep relapsing or else you'll be dry in AA. Like they say, sobriety. You know, so I have to adhere to everything that I'm told. Not everything, not a lot of off-the-wall stuff you hear, but what it says right there in that big book. Doesn't say in the big book I got to give my number out to everyone, no. But it does say I have to work with others, right? So I have to do what it says. That's the only way that I'm going to stay sober. And I've been doing that for 37 years. And believe me, it's been working fine. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for your service tonight. Trish, welcome.
Thanks for jumping in for me, Jamie, when my computer decided to crash. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. You know, we started out the recap in the part of the chapter where it says there is a solution. And then it points us to the work and the steps that we need to take. But during this conversation that Roland Hazard is having with Dr. Young, he also finds about the other solution, that vital spiritual experience. And, you know, that's the exception. I was also told I was hopeless while I was out there by other people who were out there, being told that I was hopeless, even though they may not have been drinking the same way that I was. And, you know, I figured that was just the lot in life that I had. And then seeing the steps and the God stuff, as I thought it was, hanging on the wall in my first meetings, it's like I didn't want anything to do with that God stuff. And kind of like Roland, I felt I've gone to church every week. Well, not every week, but I've gone to church. I know who God is. I know what God wants me to do. But then that line that Dr. Young had told Roland, that this does not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. Just because I go to church doesn't mean I have a relationship with God. You know, it was you people. The church kept telling me, get a relationship with God, find God. But it was walking in the rooms of AA and learning from you people that I learned what it means to have a relationship with God. So that's where I found my vital spiritual experience. But then the result of that vital experience, that's vital spiritual experience, is just a few lines later. The ideas, the emotions, the attitudes, which used to be the guiding force of my life, were tossed to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate me. once I have that vital spiritual experience, I can't keep living the same way I was living with the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions and attitudes. I had to find a new way to live, new ideas, new emotions. And those emotions were hard. I didn't even know what they were. I had to learn what they were, learn how to name them, and learn how to experience them in life. But as I did that, they slowly started coming into my life, and I no longer was ruled by those old ideas that I had, and found not just that vital spiritual experience, not just the steps, but a whole new way of living and a whole new way of life once I got willing to walk in here and do the work. Thanks.
Thanks, Trish. Lisa, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. You know, I'm just looking back, and I thought I could do it without spiritual help. I didn't even know what spiritual help was. I'm from Mass, and I didn't do a lot of big book meetings. I did one for a year, but you couldn't speak unless you did the work, and so it really wasn't too useful to me. I don't know if I was just closed off to it. But you don't hear about this in a lot of the meetings around here. I'm so very grateful, that huge change in, my outlook and how I interact, and my outlook towards people, places, and things, towards life. It's really changed, and it's replaced with, a lot of patience and tolerance. And, I had a experience yesterday with someone who's been in my life for quite a while, and they were pretty upset about situations, life stuff. And I thought in our history it never ended well, because I jump into that chaos. I didn't know how to handle it. I'd get resentful. Why are you talking like that, or swearing, or whatever, and I didn't have to do that. I was patient and tolerant. If I didn't have anything nice to say, I didn't say anything. I just listened. I didn't show it. I wasn't agitated. I actually picked up the phone too for backup in case I needed it. A little extra support, but it just went very differently. And I actually got a thank you for help. And it was just very different and very nice. I see it. I for a long time I didn't see any of this in myself. Other people did. But I'm starting to. I saw it yesterday. I see it, looking at people when I'm talking to them. They're not standoffish. And it's really pretty good. And, I was remembering when I first started my writing last year, and not just in Massachusetts, the surrounding states, we had a little earthquake. I'm sitting at my table, and I'm starting, and all of a sudden it starts shaking. And, I just went, oh, okay. And I continue to do it. But, wow, got me thinking tonight. But, I had that, but this past year, it's been a lot of different things. How different relationships have changed. My peace. how I handle things. I don't have to go off the deep end. I don't have to get angry. You know, I talk to God and ask Him, you know, if I'm trying to see, what are you trying to show me? What can't I see? What am I missing on? You know, ask for guidance. You know, where would we be without these guys telling us about this? You know, it's just huge, and it's just I'm so grateful. I didn't have a clue of any of it, you know, because I didn't pick the book up. I always had a book, maybe read a little bit here and there, but you know, this study has been just a game changer, and my life is changing every day. I'm changing every day. How I look at things, how I deal with things, how I talk to people. You know, I don't take things personally anymore, you know. But, you know, I gotta stay close. I gotta stay active in this, because my disease wants me to forget, and I can forget very quickly. And those things come in, that resentful, distorted thinking tries to come back in. So, yeah, so I'm just real grateful tonight, and thanks everybody.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for your service tonight. I'm going to jump in real quick before we close out. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had no idea that I was powerless. I had no idea I had a mental obsession, and I certainly had no idea that I had a spiritual malady, because I used to do all kinds of outside substances that I thought were giving me a spiritual experience, let me tell you. That being said, there are so many alcoholic people who have been part of Alcoholics Anonymous coming to bear fruit. There have been many non-alcoholic people involved helping Alcoholics Anonymous to come to bear fruit. A couple of those, Sister Ignatia and many of those who were non-alcoholic. You know, had Roland gone to see Freud, we wouldn't have this spiritual element to our disease, because Freud didn't believe in that, but Jung did. So one of the things sorry, just got derailed. One of the things that it brings me to is that on page 64 of our book, it says that when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. And yes, it's dealing with resentments on that page. But what I have come to understand is every problem in my life, my mental health, my physical health, how I deal with other people, are all rooted in spiritual malady. Now I'll jump out there as the squirrel on the bouncy branch with my Jethro Bodine 3rd grade education, and I'll take a risk of saying something. And that is, if the steps that will enable me to not pick up the first drink will effectively work to not pick up the first drink, then it's only reasonable to me that those same steps will work in every other spiritual malady of my life. Every other spiritual malady of my life. If applied. And if not applied, then, it is just what it is. And it shows that I don't have the willingness to be better. I love in the spiritual experience where it talks about the essentials of willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. We always talk about the how of the program, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, but there is no place in the book where it uses that term. What it does say in the spiritual experience is willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. And a lot of people will say tomato, tomato, right? But it doesn't have the same thing because it's not the how, it's the who. Who's the who? The who becomes the God of our own understanding. Or in my case, the God of my experience. And one of the things that I have learned in my life, in my journey in Alcoholics Anonymous, is I can be in the middle of the most pain and chaos of my life and still be smack dab in the middle of what God's will for me is, because it's an experience I'm supposed to have. And I can be in that pain and be in those emotions. And if I'm willing to do the work, the result will be a spiritual experience or spiritual awakening. And I'm one of those crazy alcoholics that believes differently than a lot of alcoholics. I believe that in each individual step I had a spiritual experience because something happened to me. Even with step one. It's not when I admitted, but it's when I accepted that I was an alcoholic. There's a difference between admitting and accepting. So by the time I get to step 12, I've had 11 collective spiritual experiences that have awakened my sleeping spirit. Now I know people who've been around the rooms for decades that say, well, I haven't had a spiritual experience. Maybe you haven't, but guess what? If you follow the directions in the big book, it doesn't mean that you won't. I think if we're all honest with ourselves, a spiritual experience can be described in many ways. It doesn't have to be a big flash of light. It can be as simple as goose flesh running up the back of our neck when we see something, when we read something, when we feel a thought or emotion, when we notice a shift in ourselves. But that's just me. I love what we do in this meeting. You know, I go to a lot of meetings. My personal opinion is most open discussion meetings have nothing to do with talking about the solution. Every now and then you might hear somebody talk about the solution. But when we're in our literature, we are always moving towards the solution. I go to meetings. I go to an 11-step meeting on a daily basis where 97% of the people never talk about step 11. Instead, it's what they ate last night or whatever it is. We've all got a responsibility. Who's supposed to be the most important room that comes in into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous? It sure as hell isn't me. It's supposed to be the newcomer. That's who we're here to help. So if I'm laying my emotional garbage on the table as someone who's got, years in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm not bringing the spiritual solution of how I'm working towards it, how I'm working through it, how my relationship is with God is through it. Am I carrying the message or just carrying the mess? We all have choices. We all have choices about what we get to share in meetings. I certainly have my difficulties and struggles as a human being. But I know the end result is that I am trying to align myself with my God every day. And that's the gift that the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And Lisa, you want to take us out with the reading, please?
Sure. From page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you can't not transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Let's close with a moment of silence for the alcoholic who still suffers, followed by the Lord's Prayer. Here's your moment. Our Father,
Who art in heaven,
hallowed
be thy name. Thy
Thy
kingdom come,
thy
thy
will
will
be
be
done
done on earth as it is
as
in
it is in
heaven.
heaven.
Give us this day
This
our
day
daily
our daily
bread,
bread,
and forgive us our
and forgive us our
trespasses,
trespasses,
as we forgive those who trespass
As we
against
forgive
us.
those who trespass
And
against
and
us.
lead us not
lead
into
us not
Lead
into
us
temptation,
not into
temptation,
but
temptation,
deliver us from
but
evil.
deliver us from
For
evil.
thine is the
For thine is
kingdom,
the
Thine is
and
the
the
kingdom,
power, and the
power,
glory,
and the
forever
glory,
and
forever
ever.
and ever. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Amen.
folks.
Amen.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Great
Good
meeting.
night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.